In this episode, we're going to be talking about a full country breakdown, the country of Lesotho, particularly as it relates to what they need to do or as it relates to the impact of the tariffs, the Trump tariffs on that country. As you would know, Lesotho was the most penalized African country when the April 2nd Trump tariffs was introduced, reciprocal tariffs. They were slammed with a whopping 50% tariffs. So we want to use data, not just conjecture and, making stuff up. Just use data available to point us into what the inner dynamics of this potential tariff could do to the country. And also, what are some of the off-ramp or what are some of the things that the country can do to de-risk the issue or the challenge that this new tariff is going to potentially negatively impact their country. What can they do to, let's say, come out of it? What strategic plans could they do to come out of it? So we're going to do this is the very first time I'm doing this, and we're going to do a couple of them. We're going to try and do most of the countries that were worst hit, like Lesotho, Madagascar, South Africa, I think Ivory Coast, and a couple of others. I did a previous video where I shared with you all the top 17 countries that were negatively, I would say most negatively hit by the Trump tariffs. And this is the first of its kind. And to help us do that, we're going to be using, for the first time, the AfricaInsights.ai platform. To me, this is the most sophisticated, comprehensive market intelligence platform for Africa out there by a mile. And I'm just going to use that to break down the country of Lesotho. You are not going to want to miss this. This is going to be fun. All right. Before we even jump into this, if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, I would want you to consider doing so as I bring cutting-edge, value-driven content like this. You would be the first to get notified when I churn out great content like this. So without much ado, subscribe, and then let's jump right into the meat of it. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to jump into the AfricaInsights.ai platform. As you see, I've already logged in. Okay. And on my dashboard. So to help us do that, the country that we're going to be looking at is the country of Lesotho. And everything that we're going to be discussing is going to be about the potential impact of the Trump levies that's being hit on them. Getting new information that the levies has been kind of delayed by 90 days. I don't know. But like you and me, I think there's an African proverb, and I'm going to attempt to paraphrase it. So those who know how this kind of proverb is, phrased perfectly, feel free to throw in the comment section, correct me. It says, if an animal would not want to bite you, it will not expose its teeth. If an animal, say maybe a dog or a fox or whatever it is, so whatever animal typically attacks humans, if it will not bite you, it will never expose its teeth. So to me, it's regardless of whether the tariffs get rolled back by 90 days or whatever it is, the writing is on the wall. And I believe African nations and investors alike should pay very, very close attention to what I'm about to show on the country of Lesotho. Okay, so let's jump in there. There are a couple of tools. The platform has several tools, and each one depends on which direction that you want to go. So if you are an investor trying to find out about investment opportunities in Africa, there are certain tools that would be recommended to you. If you are a market entry specialist or consultant, there are tracks that you use. If you are into export and import of goods on the continent or trying to look for where to find clients or customers for your goods, there's a path, right? So in this case, we're just going to go down the investment track, right? So the first place that we're going to start is we're going to start with the economic indicators overview. So there are 5 different macroeconomic indicators. These are very simple. So if you are not an economic person, you don't have to run away from this. It's very simple. So there's the GDP growth rate, inflation rate, currency, stability, and then fiscal policy, and then finally population. For these purposes, I'm just going to focus on 2 economic indicators. The first one is the GDP growth rate, which it says GDP growth rate measures the percentage increase in a country's economic output compared to the previous year. So I always use this in layman's terms, that even as a company that was, let's say, a widget, let's say a phone, right? And the company sold 100,000 pieces of it at the cost of $1, they make $100,000 a year. So in a country setting, it's similar. How much they bring in for the total year. So the GDP growth rate measures year on year. Is there growth or is there decline, right? So that's what we're going to be doing. And it says that a higher rate indicates stronger economic growth. So if the rate is high, it means that the economy is booming, it's growing. Rates above 5% are considered very strong for African economies. So if the rate is above 5%, it means the economy is doing well. So with that said, let's go in and load this GDP growth rate data. So this is going to show GDP in terms of comparative GDP numbers. And you're going to see it in a chart format. So this is the entire GDP landscape of the continent of Africa. And if you want to see the granular data, is by country here. So here, as you scroll, you're going to see the numbers. So you're seeing that, for instance, Lesotho, we are looking at, is showing that Lesotho's GDP growth rate, GDP rate was 0.9%, right? And this is, the reference date is a 2024 projection. There may be latest information right now, but this is what the platform's latest data was for 2024 projection, 0.9%, which is quite low. Okay. All right. So in terms of the map, I'm going to zoom in a bit. So as I zoom in, you're going to see Lesotho is actually down in South Africa, right? Down, it's a small country. So this is a GDP growth rate, as you can see, of 0.9%, right? And this is South Africa's own. South Africa's own is also quite lower, but I think the dynamics are different. Lesotho is a tiny country by landmass. Okay, so then let's look at the population size as well. So we do the same thing. We click on this, and then you come in here and load the visual. So we load the population data, and okay. All right, so it loads, so it shows you a bubble, right? A relative bubble, and the numbers too are here. The real numbers are here, right? And these numbers are also classified in, I think, from highest to lowest. When you can see here, Lesotho is 2.31 million people, and the reference date is 2023. And there are sources here, so a ton of sources that you can reference by your own. And in terms of wanting to visualize it, so let's look at it again. So from this chart, you could see the population centers of Africa, right? So Lesotho is here, it's 2.31 million. South Africa is next door with 64.5 million people in terms of population. And you can clearly see from these big bubbles, you can see the massive population centers of the continent, predominantly Nigeria, Egypt, Ethiopia, DRC, that's Democratic Republic of Congo, and a couple of others, right? So, but you can see, generally, you can see the in terms of the population, that tells you the workforce availability and everything. So, with that said, we see that their GDP growth rate is lower 0.9%. That means the economy itself is suffering, right? Or the economy is not on great footing. Okay. And by extension, we can even look at the fiscal policy, that is the direction that the country wants to take, to maybe to which sense or which direction in terms of policy is the country facing. I wasn't going to do this, but I think looking at those low GDP numbers, let's look at the fiscal policy as well, and see what is being done or what's the focus of the nation. So fiscal policy direction, just as you can see, it indicates government's approach to managing the resources and economic development of the country. And this one is being categorized as whether the country is expanding or contracting or is staying neutral. Some countries, it's best for them to contract. For some countries, it's best for them to stay neutral. For others, it's best for them to expand. And expansion means a whole lot of things, right? So if we are going to look at the fiscal policy, in the same way, you click on this button here, it loads the fiscal policy visual. Okay, so here, the visual is loaded. Okay, so here means green means the country is expansionary. That is, policies are focused on increasing government spending to stimulate growth. Yellow means it's neutral. They are balancing the books. And to me, neutral is really great. Balancing the books, making sure that things are stable. Then contractionary means the policies are focused on reducing government spending to control debt and inflation. Okay. All right. So as we look at Lesotho, we're saying that Lesotho, saying that what? Okay. Let me expand it a little bit. Okay, zoom in actually. Okay, I think I over zoomed. All right, I think this is better. Okay, so okay, we zoomed in. So this fiscal policy is neutral, and the reference date is February 2025. It says that their fiscal policy is centered on promoting economic diversification. This is key, right? This is key. Let's note this: economic diversification, right? And actually, to read it well, we could. I think I will just scroll to the detailed version of this. Right, so I scroll here. This is the real fiscal. Say the fiscal policy of Lesotho is centered on promoting economic diversification, enhancing private sector development, and investing in infrastructure and human capital. Okay, this is so I want you to hold the keyword economic diversification. There's a reason why. Okay, so with that said, we are done with the economic indicators for that country. Okay, so we're done with that. So now, because they were hit so much by the tariffs, we want to find out why. What do they actually even produce that they were hit like that? Okay, so to do that, let's use the Exports Finder tool. So there's a tool here called Export Finder. It helps you to find which country exports what. Which country, basically, you select the country and it tells you what exports go out of that country. So it's very, very simple. So we're going to look at Lesotho. See, it's a small country and with 2.3 million people, big headlines. What is it that they are being penalized too much and so much by America? For all intents and purposes, Lesotho is not a rich country. It's a country, it's a sub-Saharan African country that is also struggling economically. We're going to look at their export. So I put the name in and just search for it. So immediately, these were the things that came out. So they are big on manufacturing, as you can see. So I'm looking at this list. I see women or girls' trousers, etc., whatever, men's and boys' trousers, knit women's. So I'm seeing garments here. Garments, apparel, textile industry, or manufacturing. Where, I mean, to me, I'm looking at Lesotho more like the tailor of Africa, right? Tailoring. I think tailoring, industrial tailoring is their bread and butter. And then, so these are, you can see manufacturing is the main export. Manufacturing is the main export for that country. Main. Okay. Then there are others. These are like road vehicles, automatic circuit breakers. I'm seeing vehicle parts and machine parts here as well. So they typically do garments, the garment industry. I'm seeing a little bit of automotive and electronics parts that they manufacture. Let's see. Diamonds, yes, because they're in South Africa, Botswana, that area, there are a lot of diamonds there. So diamond, I'm seeing that. I'm seeing other minerals as well. Then I'm seeing what? Agriculture, not that big on agriculture. So it's mineral water. That's probably they export mineral water or bottled water to maybe neighboring countries as well. Because of possibly their manufacturing base, which looks solid to me because of the garment industry. So they probably may have better electricity infrastructure and better supply chain system set up. So they could manufacture or bottle water and then wood, tobacco, and a few others. But what I'm seeing more is my guess is this is what they are exporting to the United States, that they are getting their backsides kicked. So this is garment completely, this apparel garments. I'm thinking possibly you may find some of these their products in maybe Target, maybe Walmart, Costco, and a few maybe fashion brands in the US. I don't know by how much, we will find out. But this is the direction that I'm seeing. I'm seeing that they are predominantly in the garment industry. Okay, so with that, I'm just going to pull market. I'm just going to look at why are they being penalized? What volumes do they send to the US? And what is prompting this? So to do that, I can do it through there's a market intelligence chart tool that I'm going to use, and it's a whole lot of tools. So I'll just select the name of the country, so Lesotho, right? And the industry we are looking at is the manufacturing industry. So let's look at the manufacturing sector. Or the sector, right? And then what the beautiful thing about this is that this is a real-time AI chatbot, but it's focused on the country and the particular sector so that you can go very deep in terms of trying to get information. I would say unnoised information, right? Detailed, specific insight about a specific issue within a specific country and a specific sector. That's the beauty of it. So I'm just going to find out about what is the, I'm just going to ask, what is the, so they produce garment, right? And they are being penalized by the US. I want to find out what is the, let's say, volume in USD, right? Exported to the United States. Okay. Per year. I just want to know why. Okay. So it analyzes that data. Right. So we got the results, the response. We were asking, what's the trade volume in USD that are exported to the US every year? And because we was looking at Lesotho and then the manufacturing industry, it gives you the direct, undiluted answer. So it says Lesotho's exports to the United States are valued at approximately $156 million as at 2023, right? Okay. So it says that articles of apparel, apparel, garment industry is the biggest. They total about 120 million. And the other smaller categories like fish, plants, and machinery, not that much. They're about 35 million. But the big one, the huge one of their export to the US is $120 million. In the grand scheme of things, when it comes to international trade, $120 million is not a big fish, right? When you look at some of the trade volumes that are going on with China, with EU and things, it's not a big deal. That's why, to me, I see it very, very insensitive for the US to slap a 50% tax, a 50% tariff on a small country like that. That is strong. You could see from their GDP that they are struggling. It is a country that is trying to tighten its belt. It's a country that I could say that the poverty index is high, like many other sub-Saharan African countries. So to me, I think the spirit of generosity and mercy was not used here. You were being hit with a sledgehammer. Okay, so with that said, let's look at this. It says the market conditions and opportunities. It says the market conditions, then AGOA benefits. That's a key important thing. So AGOA, I think it's an acronym for African Growth and Opportunities Act. It was a kind of a legislation that was put together for the African market. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's George Bush Jr. I think his time, where they put a trading pact with Africa together, that for certain items, particularly textiles, garments, they could ship to the United States duty-free, so as to help the economies of Africa grow and also reduce poverty and crime and terrorism and all those kind of things, because poverty goes with crime and terrorism and those things. So that policy has served Africa very well. So I think that is the vehicle Lesotho was using to export $156 million worth of products to the United States. Okay, so it says Lesotho benefits from Africa Growth and Opportunities Act, yes, which provides duty-free access, this is important, to the US market for certain African products, significantly boosting textile exports. And since the textile industry is dominant in that country, hence, that means a disproportionate amount of their export income is coming from the US. So, which tells me that being hit with the US is going to have a direct, this is not a direct hit on the economy. It could really bring the economy, or Lesotho economy, to bring them, it could potentially cause the economy to crumble. Just like that. Just one country's decision will cause them to crumble. All right. So there are others. You could take a look at other things, but I think this is kind of very informative as far as the sector is concerned, right? Okay. So let's, now that we've taken a look at that, it means that they are highly leveraged to the U.S. U.S. import of textiles. They are highly leveraged. They are also using they are also, did I say highly leveraged? No, it means that they are highly exposed to just one market, one kind of angle or one kind of product line in terms of manufacturing, which is highly risky. That is, they are not leveraged at all. It's highly, highly, highly risky because they are focusing on one particular line or one particular sector, one particular market. So if one market explodes, then they are in smoke. Also, they are leveraging a policy that is also about to expire. As you would see, the Africa Growth and Opportunities Act expires, I think, at the end of September this year or later this year, if I'm not mistaken. What happens if the current administration does not renew it? What are they going to do? So with that, let's move to the next two. In terms of doing a deep dive, we're just doing a deep dive. I'm really enjoying this. A deep dive into the sector and then the country. So let's look at, okay, what is the way out? Since they are being hit by this and they are vulnerable, actually, as you can see, they are vulnerable. If you are vulnerable, they are vulnerable to US as a single market. You're vulnerable to relying on the African Growth and Opportunities Act, which could expire. They are vulnerable because they are basically in one line, which is garments. What could they potentially do? So let's look at the Investment Opportunity Finder. That is a tool that can give potential investors a guide as to what investment opportunities exist within a country and a sector, right? So it's by country, by sector, right? That's why I love Africa. I love this platform. It's nothing like this out there. All right. So I'm going to pull it again. Once again, let's look at the manufacturing sector, right? So looking at that, so we're going to discover potential opportunities. And this is powerfully driven, AI-driven insight. So it gives a little bit of overview here. It says Lesotho's manufacturing sector is primarily driven by textiles and apparel, right? We know this now, with significant contributions from footwear, food, and beverages. The sector benefits from the African Growth and Opportunities Act, making Lesotho a major exporter of garments to the US and regional markets, right? So it says, despite the challenges, the sector remains a key employer and economic driver. Definitely, right? That sector would be possibly the leading employer and an economic driver. Definitely. However, recent job losses highlight the need for diversification. Remember, we're looking at diversification and the country's fiscal policy. They said they are tightening their belt to diversify. Okay, so they're in the right track. And investment in other manufacturing areas like automotive components and electronics. Fantastic. So let's look at the opportunity. We know that they focusing on garment is a risk. They're focusing on North America using the AGOA, Africa Growth and Opportunities Act, is also a risk. So the investment opportunity is in automotive components manufacturing, which is great because they are very close by South Africa. They have solid manufacturing base, evidenced by their garment manufacturing. They could extend that into automotive parts, right? So this key opportunity is automotive component. Lesotho offers opportunities in producing automotive components due to its strategic location near South Africa's automotive industry, right? So apparently they are closer to South Africa's automotive industry. So there could be that kind of assimilation of core knowledge base and skill set. There could be people living in Lesotho who work in South Africa in the automotive industry. That is a possibility, right? Okay, so the next thing is electronic and electrical products. So they could do Lesotho has skilled workforce capable of assembling electronic and electrical components. Why? Because their manufacturing base is solid. It's just product diversification. They need different products so that they are not exposed to this kind of risk again. As I said, the African proverb that says, if an animal or a beast wouldn't bite you, it will not expose its teeth to you, right? The teeth has been exposed to Lesotho and the rest of Africa. So Lesotho and every sub-Saharan African country, be wise and beware. So the next opportunity for investors is knit fabric mills. There's a high demand for knit fabrics in Lesotho and SADC. I think the Southern African Development something. I don't know what that acronym is. Establishing a knit fabric mill can meet local and regional needs. Okay, that's one. Then the other one is leather and footwear. So I'm thinking about leatherware for automotive industry as well. So like leather seats and stuff for the automotive industry. So it says, despite being in its infancy, the leather industry offers opportunities for growth. And I agree with that. So there's footwear because you're doing garments. You're doing jeans, Lacoste, and many and some maybe nice African outwear that they ship to the US. They could add footwear as well, since that distribution channel is already there. Then plastics and packaging and accessories, right? That's the next one. Then the final one is high value garments. That's producing high value garments that can enhance Lesotho's profile. That is focusing on men and ladies' high value garments, right? Branded items, coming up with their own line of fashion or own line of brands, since they've demonstrated that they are world class when it comes to sewing or tailoring. And to me, the other thing that I haven't seen is that I would want to see Lesotho's this footprint on the African continent, because trust me, I can see if US is buying garments or soon trousers and shirts and things from Lesotho, I can bet my last dollar that many African countries would love to import from Lesotho. The same thing. I don't see that. I don't see a major clothing manufacturing, massive production line in Ghana or many other West African countries. West African market is ripe for the taking for those kind of product lines. So I would want to see Lesotho taking the opportunity to enter the African market, particularly using the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, which makes it possible to export to other African countries duty-free or tax-free. So finally, let's look at the final one is market insight analysis. This is going to be a sector. This is going to be looking at the sector in itself. We want to go deep into a sector. So you could select the country and then select the sector, right? So So we're going to do something. We're going to look at the sector, which is manufacturing, how Lesotho, its position in terms of its comparison to the whole continent of Africa. Okay. So to do that, we're going to look at the sector performance score. And the sector performance score basically is the sector's attractiveness, how the sector is attractive for investors in terms of its market size, its investment climate, and I think its growth potential overall. So it looks at all these things and then grades the country plus the sector, right? Or it rates the sector, right, for each country. So we're going to look at that. So let's look at manufacturing. So we're going to look at manufacturing, and you're going to see at a glance. This is why I love this, man. It's going to generate the sector performance score. Anyway, whilst this is loading, if you still haven't subscribed to this channel, do well to do so. And I would want you to also subscribe to the African Market Insights weekly email. It's a mind blower. It tells you the latest trends, latest opportunities happening this week within the continent of Africa. It's free. You use there's a link in the description that you can sign up for the free newsletter. All right, so I just give me a free stuff. Okay, so let me look at. So let's look at the legend here. The legend says if the score is between 80 to 100%, means that it's an exceptional opportunity for investors. If it's between 60, 79%, it's a solid opportunity, right? And the rest follows, like moderate opportunity and the rest, right? So we are going to look at the sector performance score. We're looking at manufacturing. So manufacturing, okay. So if we pick this, it's telling me that the sector performance score for Lesotho is 68%, right? That means it's a solid opportunity, as you can see here. But let's look at how that compares to other countries. And we'll even, that's the last thing we're going to do. This is fascinating, and we are going to be doing this for the other countries. So stay tuned, stay glued to this, and tag along. So let's look at this dashboard, the entire map, right, as it pertains to the continent of Africa. Let me just close out this. So you see that relatively speaking, there are a bunch of greens. Deeper the green, the better. So you could see from a glance, there are certain countries that I know for manufacturing, for investors. They pale in comparison to others. All right. So we're going to look at the real competitive stacking. This is the beauty of it. So it tells you over here that Rwanda, Morocco, they are by far the best when it comes to manufacturing in Africa in terms of sector performance, the sector's performance in terms of its attractiveness for investment, right? It's looking at investment climate and growth potential and market sizing and all those kind of things. These two countries are by far the best. So when we look at it, 68% places Lesotho here. So they are in the middle of the pack. And why is it that they are so good at manufacturing? They are just 68%. That is what the granular detail, that's the country analysis will do. The country analysis, Lesotho. So we go to Lesotho, and once again, we go to manufacturing. Okay, we generate the analysis. Right. Okay, that was quick. Okay, so we generate the analysis. Yes, there's a lot of read up for that industry specifically, right? But what I'm most interested in about the score for now, or for what we are doing, just the score. So it says 68% performance score for that sector. And what's the score rationale? This the meat of it. It says Lesotho's manufacturing sector presents a solid opportunity with a market size boosted by its strategic export relationships and emerging diversification efforts. Okay. Growth dynamics are promising, particularly with increased exports to South Africa, okay, under Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. That's what I was saying. Okay. To South Africa. And potential in new manufacturing areas like electronics. Awesome. However, there are significant risks. I think this is the reason why they were docked points when it came to performance score. The risks are too high. The risk due to the sector's reliance on AGOA, and infrastructure deficiency. The investment climate is favorable with incentives and trade investments, trade agreements, but challenges such as workers' rights and infrastructure needs addressing to fully capitalize on opportunities. So I think it's a solid investment market for manufacturing if they could diversify, or yes, if they could diversify what they manufacture and the markets they target. All right. So with that said, we have come to the end of our analysis. We are going to be doing more of these. If you like this kind of content, please put in the comment section so that it encourages us to whether we need to do more of these breakdowns by country. We could do, there are so many things that we could do, but this is just so that the world knows if a country like this is being penalized with 50% tariff, what it really means. It really means that this thing could potentially take down a small country like that is struggling. It could take down the economy and cause severe suffering. I think that's why that's why I didn't want to just say something out of conjecture, out of emotion. Let the data lead us to that decision. And I'm glad this tool is there to do us justice, where the data is pointing us to what needs to be done, where the data is pointing us that, look, Africa, we need to take action. If we don't, we'll be in trouble. And particularly in Lesotho, they need to act very swiftly. Thank you so much for watching. See you the next episode.